What is up, people, and welcome back. Right, so we're back on this thing now. So tied all the welds on the inside. I found another issue with the steering rack, which could have been contributing to the horrible angles and the noises. It's loose, right? Wasn't tight. I thought you wouldn't leave that loose, so I thought I'll have a look underneath, see how it's mounted. And it's literally just mounted like that. So you've got a round steering rack just clamped to a flat surface. Yeah, and this one, there's nothing coping it. You understand what I mean? There's nothing cupping it from underneath. So if I go and show you my mounts, right, these, ideally that rack should have something like that underneath it, yeah, cupping it so it's got all this surface area to grip to, but it's got nothing. And it moves, the rack moves left to right because it hasn't got one like that which locates the rack and stops the rack sliding. So it's just relying on the U-bolts, and the U-bolts are just doing that. So I'll be making a custom set of these that will look like this, because I think these actually are Zcars ones. These I lent a long time ago off Custom Minis. I know, lent as I say. These were off his Zcars, and he had the early Zcar. So I'll copy these, because these are the same as mine, if you look, basically, see? So I'll copy these and make a set of these so we can actually get the steering rack in the correct position and safe, to be honest, because it ain't going out of my place like that. It's just not. So that's one of the other issues we found for the rack, which could have been partly that clunking noise, the rack clunk, 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 and why he said it was very vague on the steering. It was pulling. So we can make them later. We'll make them with you. So then we can get the steering rack fixed, because obviously that's where you need to start with, isn't it? Right, so, but for today, what I want to do is I want to tack, while I've still got this engine in, I've probably took about, might sound soft, only about 50 kg, if that, out of this car. Because I only took a seat, a fuel tank, radiator, some water pipes, little bits of metal, some aluminium. So the car is probably still around about where it left off, right? Tell you what we'll do, we'll measure it. So this was 690mm from the floor to the bottom of this bar. So I'm just going to pull my tape measure out. That'll do. So we are now at barely nothing. It's gone up, what, a mil, if a mil. So it really hasn't gone anywhere. And the front was 210 to the bottom of that bracket. And we are at barely nothing. Which, do you notice the suspension's doing absolutely nothing? Well, this side's moved up a touch. This side's gone up a touch. So that's fuel tank. Well, there was that much fuel. Well, 5 litres, which is 5 kg just on here. So we've moved a touch. But what I want to do is I want to have a look around these cambers. Yeah, I want to see what's going on with these cambers. I want to get the rear set as close to 0 as I can. Right? So we need a rough idea of where we are. So this is my camber and caster gauge. I honestly don't use it that much. Right, so it calibrates itself. So this one is 2.5 degrees camber, which is way too much for a wheel drive car. And this one is 1.1 degree. This aluminium just sits on the rim. So 1.5 degree. So from this we can determine we need to straighten these up quite a lot. I can tell that that one is more. But he said he couldn't get any more camber out. I think he was going the wrong way because that's fully adjusted down. So this is max camber. So I need to bring that up to pivot the wheel. So I think we can get that a lot better just by doing the correct adjustment. I think whoever's adjusting it may have gone the wrong way. So that first of me saying, look at the angle of this, maybe that was a little bit hesitate, well, a bit overkill because I hadn't noticed that. I was going off the word. So first of all, we're going to knock that up to 0. And then we're going to have a look at what the drive shaft angle's like. Right? So what I've had to do there is I've had to pack up that side because the chassis itself wasn't level. So I got it to within 0.5. Yeah? So I could get a better reading. And it did equal out a bit. This one went down to 2. And that one just went up a little bit. So what I've done is I've now set them at like 0.5 degree. And I've left it at 0.5 degree because the adjuster didn't have much left. But all you do basically with this one, oops, sorry. It's an easy setup. You just undo this little bit. Even though it's supposed to have 2 of these washers. They are like misalignment spacers for rose joints, yeah? But I've took that one out, put washers in and just squashed the bracket in. But it still function. It's just a bit bent both sides. We just slacken that off a touch, adjust that, and I just held the camber gauge on here. And when I got it to about where I wanted it, roll the car forwards and backwards. Bob's your mother. Easy as pie. I'm still on I'm still quite a decent drive shaft angle though, but we'll get to that by hopefully trying to drop the diff. Look at that. Look how close that is to this. I tell you what. Oh, extreme. Look, I mean, clearance is clearance, but damn, that isn't how I'd have done it. Jeez, that's close, that is, people. Anyway, so for that. Right, so next thing you're doing that, we need to get this oil core out. I've set them square. The diff dropping is going to be an episode on its own. Because ideally we need to get the new engine in first. Because we need to know, because the dry sump pump goes here. Yeah, we need to take all this off because it's got a different kind of bracket for this. We need to make sure we've got everything in we need before we start moving the diff about. And we want to put a smaller chain on, smaller sprocket on. I've got a spare, see. And we need to see our clearance between the sprocket and the gear shifter. Because if it's too close, then we're not going to move the diff, right? Because once that chain gets a little bit of slack in it, it's going to start banging off this. So, we don't really want that. Look how clean this engine is. Oh, shizzle, it was. Oh, don't tell the owner. Right. We need to get this all cool out. And I've had a plan. Right? If we lift it high enough, there's a steel spacer in there. I'm thinking, undo them and bolt them together. What do you think, people? You think we're going to have a chance? Right, I'll have a go, shall I? Right, drip tray. I don't know, I might leave this hunky on because it might help. Alright, take that off. I think I need to hold it above the engine, don't I? I'll tell you what, this could get messy. Yeah, it's only tight. Oh, jeez. Come on. Be nice if the oil cooler bolts were done up, weren't they? Oh, size. Stop rolling. So this is all going to be about making as little mess as possible. Take this one off first because it doesn't seem to be leaking or anything. Ideally I'd have a fit in there, fit between them, but I ain't got one. I have had this line upside down as well, so the oil's obviously drained back, which has helped. Why have I got a spacer in there? Put it on there anyway, shall we? Have to go. There you go, that is it. Just can't even like that, 'cause you're not going to get through the hole, is it? I get some nuts. One on there. One on there. Wait, now it starts to leak. Stop it. Oh, man. What? There's O-rings in here, so it should keep it nice and sealed from the elements, shouldn't it? Right then, so where we are now, took the guard off with the reverse start motor, but I want to get this casing off so we can see roughly where we are on space constraints. No, what's this size? Just keep that old casing and put it in the new one. Right, so that's what I want to look at. There's not a lot of gap there, is there, people? But this is, I don't know what these numbers mean. It says 40, but there's no way that's 40. Oh, massive. And the front one is we'll just have to count. So yeah, one. So there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 tooth, that is. You ain't gonna get much smaller than that either. The one I put on my booster is a 14. So this is a 15. What size chains on this? Oh, it's a 630 chain. Chain's massive. But not that, I thought, look at the size of them teeth compared to mine. So, yeah, if you was to go down size on chain, we could start running smaller sprockets. But I guarantee that's probably the smallest you're going to get in a 630 chain. But we could definitely get something smaller on the back. But we're not going to make that much difference in that gap. If I drop that diff down an inch, you're not going to be left with a lot at all, are we? Unless we take a good few teeth out of the rear sprocket. So what do we do, people? The only way to change the drive shaft angle is to lower the car ridiculously low, or drop the diff. But with the chain being that close, I didn't realise this had a 630 on it. This is one massive chain, this is. So we can get smaller if we change to a 530 setup, but it's an expensive game swapping sprockets and chains. In my chain alone for my cars, it's just under 200 quid. And then you've got to add like sprockets on as well. We'll have to have a chat with the customer, but I think we might have to leave the diff where it is, people. Which means we won't really be able to do much work on the back suspension because of the diff angle. Yeah, that's the chain I used. Yeah, 530 DRZ2 drag racing chain. So it's smaller than what he's running here. This is a monster, but for drag racing it'd be really good because it won't stretch very easily. So the diff may have to stay. But then again, I would like him to get a smaller sprocket for the rear anyway, because it's quite a tall gear. I'm going to have a chat with him, I think. See what he wants to do. He can't drop the engine anymore. Well, technically we could, because he's got a dry sump on his engine. So his engine can physically go lower than this one, because he hasn't got a sump on it. Something I'm going to have to think about, though. I don't know how much work would be involved in lowering the engine down. Right, scrap that idea. We can't really lower the engine up because of the oil filter. Is close, and I'm pretty sure on the front of the dry sump here there's a fitting. Should we have a look? So yes, we do have two fittings, but that one's a filter and that one is turbo return, but we're not running turbo. But they say stick out 10mm. We might just about have clearance there. It will be very tight, so that is something we're going to have to look into. We might have to shallow these down a touch. Yeah? But yeah, this is the motors going in. Very nice and shiny. All ported, polished, cammed. We don't need that cover, because she's got this thing on. Yeah? Because of the dry sump. And these are -12s. I think these are the same as what's on the tank. Yeah, so that's what's got to go in there. That one comes out. Yeah, so we've got to make allowances for that, so the engine can't really go down. I think the diff's going to have to stay where it is, people. Not what I'd like, because I just do not like that angle there. And I know when it squats, it's going to go a bit, but once it unsquats, it's going to be running at that angle. Well, I'm going to leave you there. I know we haven't done a lot again, but the strip down is never as fun as the putting back together, is it? So there's going to be a lot more detail putting it back together, doing the seats, the columns and all this, putting it all back in, putting the tank in, all the lines and everything like that. So just bear with me on the strip down, and then we'll get on to the good stuff. Right then, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Bye.